Welcome back to the Balanced Hairstylist podcast, where mental health and the beauty industry meet. I'm Sarah, and I'm your host. Y'all, I am so excited for today's episode. It is so good and so juicy. I have someone today who I truly consider a mentor in this industry, Roxie Jane Hunt. I've followed her work and we've known each other for a long time, and I'm so inspired by her. I cannot wait for you to hear this potent conversation. We get into so many powerful topics like why our work is sacred, what it really means to hold space for others without losing ourselves in that, and how to navigate client relationships with a little more boundaries, more awareness, and more care. We talk about settling in the discomfort of silent appointments, the power of presence, the power of our presence behind the chair. We talk about creativity, and we talk about how to do our jobs without overextending ourselves. We talk about why sustainability is actually the opposite of burnout. And we talk about choice because we do have choice behind the chair, choice in how we show up, choice in what we carry, and choice in what we release. Because the truth is, this work that we do asks a lot of us. And sustainability and taking care of ourselves is so important. I'm telling you, it's such a good one. Let's get into it. Roxie, thank you so much for joining us and being here. Welcome, friends. I'm really excited about our special guest today. Roxie Jane Hunt is a Seattle based facilitator, mentor, and hairstylist, supporting people through life defining change. She is a mother of three, the author of Unstuck, the CEO of Free Your Hairbrush and Free Your Hair Salon, and also the creator of Alchemy of Change. Through hair, education, and mentorship, Roxie invites a slower, more intentional way of working, one that is rooted not only in self worth and integrity, but also sustainability, which is a breath of fresh air in an industry that has long glorified burnout. Her work also includes cycle awareness through the blood spiral and offerings centered on trust and care through the wheel of consent. Roxy's teachings have profoundly shaped how I approach my craft, how I view my boundaries, and how I view my relationship to myself behind the chair. She is a true innovator and really, truly an inspiration to me. Roxy, thanks so much for being here today with me.
You're so welcome, Sarah. It is a real pleasure. Thank you for the introduction and I just feel so always so seen by you.
As I'm saying all of these things, I just realize how much you have given to us and how much you've birthed into the world. And it's really quite remarkable, Roxy. I was lucky enough to take the Alchemy of Change class that you came to Kansas City to teach us years ago. We just figured out in 2019, right before all the world shut down, which is wild to think about. And this class, this course with you really helped transform I think how I view myself. I think at the time I still had the mentality of, just being a hairstylist. And that conversation, this class with you helped me see my own value and what I bring to the world and how that then translates into how I work. And it changed my work life completely because I was bringing my own value to the table, and it helped how I scheduled my clients. It helped how I even formed my day around time. And at that time as well, I had just started the Balanced Hairstylist like maybe a year prior. And so I was really understanding that mental health was such a big deal for hairstylists. And your course really helped me understand the steps that we need to take to be able to have a better mental health balance when we're behind the chair. I want to ask you a little bit because I want to share so much with other people about how this alchemy of change helped change me. So, what was happening in your own life, in your own work, that made you not only create this, but then want to also share it with us?
Hmm. Ah, gosh, I think the first thing I need to say is that it feels like a lifetime ago to me because we had a pandemic in between. And it's still, that time period still feels a bit hazy. And so I'm like conjuring back to what felt like a completely different life. So, what was happening for me at that time, I think I was around it was around the kind of my second decade of doing hair. And I was just really starting to notice and kind of find words to articulate what was really happening in those sessions with people who would come in for a haircut. And it felt like I had noticed so much. Like, of course, people come in because they want a trim or they want a cut or they want a transformation. There's like the physical thing that's happening there, which is important and valuable, being as hair is like our number one kind of signifier of our identity. Like hair is big. It's a big deal for people. So they come in, they trust us, they sit in our chair, they want something, we do our best to give it to them. And then there's also so many other things that are happening there. There's the personal connection, there's the conversation, there's the kind of sharing of life, and oftentimes sharing of things that maybe don't get shared other places. And I was just starting to kind of experience my own career as being someone who carried the craft and art of hairstyling and also the work of a priestess, which is, someone who serves a community in a sense of you go and you visit a priestess to share the truth of what's happening. And maybe you get some counsel and maybe you get some witnessing and some support and some guidance. But there's like this exchange of truth that's happening and like this role of witnessing. At the time, I think at that time I had a baby and 2 kids. So I had 3 at home, and I was trying to balance my own career working behind the chair with people and also mothering and many other things too. And I was just starting to really get a sense of like, okay, I'm a self-employed person. I have to be able to support myself in a really expensive city and my family, keep food on the table. I have to be able to love what I do if I'm going to play this role. I'm not just giving trims here. It's like
Right.
I'm creating a space for people to come and be who they are and become who they want to be. So if I'm really going to be able to work the way I want to work, which is to not ever be in a hurry. I don't ever want someone in my chair to feel rushed. That's the number one thing. Like, I don't double book, never did. Just like come and sit and we will stretch out time for you. I do a haircut in an hour and a half, but I try and make it feel as lengthy as possible. So I knew I had to work. I didn't want to work fast. And I only had a very limited amount of time to be able to be working behind the chair. So I was really reckoning with like, how do I value my own time in a way that supports me to keep loving what I do and not feeling burned out at the end of the day, cutting hair when my kids get home. I want to still be available for them. So it just kind of created it was like a puzzle. I just had to like look at the numbers and look at the timing and be like, okay, this is how I need to value my time at this much per hour to continue to love what I do. And then within that time, then it was like, so then if I'm valuing it at this number, how do I make how do I make each service feel really valuable to the person who's receiving it? And also like, so that at the end of it, I can walk away and feel great. I mean, it was really that, I was like looking at how do I want to feel? And then how do I create this sort of services and the kind of work life that I want to match that? Basically, so I can then be a mother and not burn out.
I think that what you just said was so um, counter to what we had been trained with is how do I want to feel after I give a haircut? versus how is the person all it's always based how I was trained, how the person feels in your chair, not ever really
Mhm.
considering our own feelings. And so I think that's
Mhm.
a really beautiful way to say that and look at that. And I so then you have all of this, you're like figuring out how do I re-enter doing what I love while still being able to sustain my own well-being and being a mother and many other things outside of work. So then what made you decide like I this feels so good, I want to share it with people, or what made you decide that you wanted to be able to give back to our community in that way?
I think when I did the work to figure out what I needed to be able to feel that full cup to serve from.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to mention my grandma Susie always told me, she was a mother of 3 as well. She always says, you have to fill your own cup first, no matter what. You fill your own cup first. You fill up your own plate first. You make yourself the best plate. And then everything feeds from that.
Mhm.
So she told me that starting when I was young, and that so I have to thank her for teaching, just instilling that as a value,
Yeah.
because it is counterintuitive, but also like it is also sustainable. And I think it's like as it should be as a woman. I
Abs-
want to be fully full to be able to give, so I can give and give and give and stay full myself.
We don't get that message very often.
We don't get that message very often,
Yeah.
but she snuck it in. She snuck it in. Okay, repeat that question one more time.
What was going on with hairstylists? Did you see other hairstylists burning
Oh,
out and were you like, this is, hey, look, I've kind of figured
okay.
some of this out. Let me teach you guys.
Yeah. So I think what made me want to work with hairstylists, it was two things. The first thing was once I figured it out for myself and it started working, I was like, "Oh, this feels so much better. I wish someone would have taught me this. I wish I would have had someone to teach me all this and just share it with me so that wouldn't have taken me so long to figure it out." So that was the first thing. It's just like I have a responsibility now to share what I can in hopes that it will bring the same sort of relief and kind of sustainability is a part of it. To be able to, I think of sustainability as being like the opposite of burnout, right? When we're able to sustain what it is we're doing. So that was a part of it, was like just feeling a personal responsibility, and also having a lot of, I have hairstylists in my life who I love. I mean, it's a real, I feel like family in a certain kind of way with other hairstylists. And like I have always felt, as long as I've been in this work, I have sort of felt like my role here is to figure out ways of making the conditions of our lives better. Because I have seen so much in salons that I do not agree with. And I have seen so many people giving, 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 giving. Like I've seen it and some of the most creative and tender, wonderful people. You know what I mean? So I felt that like, oh, I really want to bring whatever I can. And then another part of it was that I was about probably 2, maybe 3 years in to stepping into a role as a teacher with hairstylists. And I was teaching creative color and I was teaching creative braiding. I was sort of teaching all of these like ways of kind of stepping out of the box creatively to hairdressers. And I found through that experience not only my voice, which was it was very helpful, because prior to that, I didn't feel confident to share my voice. I didn't think it was of value, but I was given an opportunity by Jane Matthews. Thank you, Jane. About probably 10 years ago, she asked me to come to Ito and teach creative color. And I was like, well, I'm not a teacher. So no, but thanks for asking. And she's like, well, just come and show us. Like all you have to do is just show us how you're doing it. And it was like a huge leap of faith for me. And I just went and I had my suitcase all full of colors and swatches. And I just like showed people what I was doing and having fun. I'd just been like messing around creatively on my own on like swatches of hair, creative painting with all kinds of colors and bringing like fine art skills and just really having fun. But it gave me an opportunity to learn how to speak and share from a place of like I just didn't want to feel like I'm coming in as an authority. I just wanted to be like, I'm coming in as someone who, like you, has been doing this work and wants it to feel good and wants it to be fun and creative. So I was already sort of primed to share what I had been learning because I had practiced at it with my teaching in salons. And at that point, like my social media, I'd had some things happen that had kind of like, I had a lot of people listening. I had a lot of followers on Instagram, just people who were interested in what I was doing. And so I guess part of it too was just like, oh, there's a platform here. I'm speaking to something and people are listening and it's having an impact on this industry as a whole, which is what I really, really want. So what do I really, really want to say? So the alchemy of change was sort of a distillation of what I had learned, 20 years behind the chair, 3 to 4 years teaching, and then also just in all the other parts of my life, kind of everything I wanted to bring in that felt the most impactful and potent. So that's what the alchemy of change was for me. It was like all the most important things that I had found that had worked for me to be able to create a workflow and a clientele and just a business work life model that was really working for me, and it really worked really well. It really worked well.
I think one of the things that I loved about your class was how you phrased things and saw things in a way that, that was a while ago, right? And luckily, there has been some change in our industry since then. But, I think you worded things in such a way that made me feel so seen as a hairstylist and as a creative and as an empath that it's like, you can be all those things. You can do all those things while maintaining your own sustainability, as you said. And one of the things that you said that really stuck with me, and it was something that I had always sort of felt, but never quite named it or could articulate it and could like sit with it in some ways, which is that our work is sacred. And it like I said, I had felt this sort of thing that was happening, but when you said it, and then when I watched you perform this haircut and you sat down with this person and really you're seeing them for who they are. And I remember you said, what is it that you want for your life with this haircut? And I was really taken aback, like, yes, that is what we're doing. And you just use these words that I had never experienced before. And it just made me feel really seen. And now I do take that word and that energy very seriously when I'm performing haircuts. It does feel
Hmm.
very sacred, especially when there's transition in life and um, when you're able to have this sort of transformation, not only physically with their hair, but also like have this internal conversation as well. So, do you still believe that our work is sacred? And what does that sacredness look like for you, honoring that in practical ways for you behind the chair?
Oh my God, so many ways. I mean, absolutely, our work is so sacred, and I only feel that more every day that I do it.
Mm,
And it's changed for me over time. I think there's so many ways. I guess I'll speak to the way that I feel now at this phase of life that the work of a hairstylist is sacred is that now it feels like what my role is to create a little tiny community resource center where people can not only come and share what's true for them and be speak honestly to what they're wanting to cut away from their life, and we cut that out of their hair, and we speak about the kind of what they're calling in, and we use that in the consultation to decide what's the haircut that's going to help kind of match whatever it is that you're wanting to step into. So it's a sacred place for people to come and transform themselves in the direction that they want to go in. It's a sacred place for people to come and share the truth of whatever it is they're going through or who they are, and to be in, just to be witnessed by someone who's not there to judge them at all, but just to be with them. And there's the sacredness of touch. And I think this more and more too, like this part becomes more important, is not the fact that I'm doing their hair, but just the fact that there's touch happening and there's trust and there's agreement about what's happening. And there's also, you know, the inner work of some people come in and they have a lot to say. They're going through a lot. Sometimes people don't want to say anything. So it's sacred. It's sacred in the sense that in my practice, I create a space for people to have choice. And maybe that's the biggest thing right now, honestly, is like you come in here and you get to choose how you want this to feel, how you want to look at the end, how you want me to brush your hair, if you want me to use scented things on you or not. Maybe we're going to talk. Maybe you just want to be silent and we'll just consult and we'll figure out what's happening. And then I will just do your hair and you can gaze out the window. But it's a place where people can come and practice making the choices that they want. And that feels like I feel that in my body when I talk about it, because I think we're in a time right now when there's so much is happening that is beyond our choice.
Mm.
And it feels like a constant barrage. And so to have a space where people can just come and be like, okay, for an hour, I just get to be here and like receive in the way that I want to. And I trust that you're not going to do anything I'm not asking you to do, like that part of it feels really sacred to me.
One thing that you said to me over the years is, um, and I bring this up because I think a lot of hairstylists struggle with this, with feeling comfortable in silence. And I remember you saying this, and it's really stuck with me as well. Is that it takes a second for our nervous systems to sort of settle in, because
Yeah.
I think as hairstylists we've been trained to, or we feel like we need to, especially sometimes as women, it's like we need to fill that space. We need to make sure people are feeling okay. So we got to talk all the time and da, da, da. And it's like to be able to just sit in silence is sometimes tricky for us to learn
Oh
how
my
to do
God.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is, I think it is such a gift. And I think especially right
Yeah.
now,
So big right now.
so big to be able to like sit in silence with someone and give them a service. And for me personally, I feel it doesn't feel more sacred, but it feels, like more intentional or something if there is
For
silence.
sure.
And I notice that I slow my movements a little bit more, and I'm just a little bit more present if there is some silence.
Oh my God. Can I just talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think to be able to sit in silence with people as a hairstylist has been one of the most challenging edges of my life. And it's been an intentional practice because it's become clear that it is what's needed sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes people just do not want to be in the words of whatever's happening. There's too much. I think about my clients now who are like the immigration lawyers, like the ones who are holding so much and they literally just need a place to come and be cared and tended to without the questions, without anything. And it's important for them to be able to choose that if they want. And so this practice came out of my training with the wheel of consent, but this was a couple years ago. I was like, okay, I know that I need to make it possible and available for my clients to just sit in quiet and receive. And I don't know how to say that yet. Like still feels uncomfortable to even say the words of that. So I'm going to just put a little bit of a sign on my mirror. And I am like using my mirror for magic so much by putting little signs on the mirror that prompt people, whether it's like, we're sharing resources about ice, or I have this little prompt that's like, if you would like a silent haircut, just ask and we'll just do your consult. We'll get clear on what's happening. And then I'll just do my thing and I'll do your hair and you can look at the mirror. We'll point you out towards the window. You can close your eyes, whatever you want. And then, if you want to guide conversation, that's fine. But I, as the hairstylist, I'm just going to be silent with you and just focus on what I'm doing. And so I had that up on my mirror for a year, I think, before someone finally was like, and people would read it. They'd sit in my chair and they'd be like, silent session. I mean, maybe sometime, but not now. People, I kind of got them used to it.
Mhm.
And then I finally had someone come in and she had just been through a really big thing. Like it was fresh and new and it was like a loss and there was grief. And she was like, okay, I think I'm ready for the silent set. She's like finally kind of like ready to try that silent session. And so I was like, okay, we're going to do it. And this is my first time too. So just so I'm I'm going to hold to it and I'm going to be, I'll be in charge of my own experience here and you just relax and enjoy. And so I did the job and I cut her hair and it was an incredible haircut because I could focus so much on what I was doing. Like that part was cool. Was just to be like, wow, like the quality of the haircut actually is very different when I'm really just tending to that part. But the challenge and like the activation in my body
Mm.
that was so present through that whole just how much I wanted to just like small talk, small talk, small. Like it was very, 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 very hard that first time. And after it was done, she was like, thank you. That was just what I needed. And I was like, you're welcome. That was so freaking hard for me. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice it.
Yeah.
So it was like getting through that one, and it almost is worth just like just putting a call out to your clients and being like, who wants a silent session? Because I need to practice.
Who wants to be the first?
Who wants to be the
I love that
first?
you were honest with her about that you were like,
I had to be.
yeah.
I think there's like a level of truth and kind of intimacy that just comes from being willing to go there with someone. And I just had to get through that first time. And it felt really edgy. And I'm sure it will feel edgy for any hairstylist who does it for the first time. But then but then once you do it, it's like, okay, this is now something that I can offer. And sometimes it's what people need. And also then for me, since I've done it since then, and I can just be comfortable in it because I kind of broke the ice.
Yeah,
It's really wonderful, actually. It's really feels really respectful. It feels in some ways like I can really nerd out on the quality of the haircut differently,
for sure.
which is kind of fun. And, it's less work in some ways. Although the presence is still there. It's not like I wasn't like going other places in my mind. I was right there my attention was still there.
Mhm.
It's just a different kind of attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One time, this was years ago, I had a client that was really it's kind of same, like had just been through something horrific and she was very amped up and I kind of was understanding at this point about sort of my own boundaries with how deep I will go and where there's like maybe a mental health professional is better for this situation. So
Yeah.
I was like, it seems really intense. Would you feel comfortable if I put on a guided meditation? It might help you in this moment. And I did. It was like a 10-minute meditation and she just closed her eyes and I did my work and I was quiet and
Mhm.
the entire energy of the space shifted and I she at the end was like thank you for that gift, and
Yeah, it's a
but
gift.
we have to be able to have that first client be able to sit with the quiet. I think it's
Yes.
important to be able to learn how to do that.
Yep.
One thing that you talked about in the class was working rushed, and you kind of mentioned that. And again, being a hairstylist now for since, oh my gosh, I think it's 25 years this year for me. That's wild.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah,
No
same, same, same.
way. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
25, that feels like, doesn't that feel like a big deal?
It's a big deal. A quarter of a century.
My gosh. So you talked about working rushed. And, I think growing up in the early 2000s, it was always about squeezing in more clients and double booking and not taking a lunch so that, we're making more money, there's more productivity. And so what happens to us, do you believe, when our work lives are in that constant state of urgency?
God, so much happens. I mean, I know I'll just speak for my own experience. Um, I didn't enjoy it
Yeah.
and it showed. I couldn't do a good job. I could do an okay job, but it was never quite the quality that I really wanted to give.
Yeah.
It felt incomplete. It felt honestly, it felt disrespectful to me to like be with someone in that way and then just be like, okay, go. Okay, bye. See you later. Someone else is gonna finish it off. Like it didn't feel I couldn't feel the like humanity of it in a way that felt important to me. And in my physical body, it was really hard. I would get off of work and come home and I'd have to like be in a bath for 2 hours crying, and then I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. So it was having taken a toll on me. And I was also feeling like I had to escape. I was like using alcohol. I was using my phone. I was using all kinds of things just to try and like come down from that speed of being.
Yeah.
And it was not a good loop. It just was like a self perpetuating, like harmful, didn't feel good at all. And one of the first signs for me, I think I talked about this in the class, was like I noticed that I was holding my pee all the time.
Yeah.
That was my first sign. Is like, whoa, what if I actually like went to the bathroom every time I felt the urge?
Yeah.
What would change? So I started doing that and I came out of this like, you know, 20-year long cycle of just like holding my bladder so I could like do more and rush in between. And when I started responding to that natural urge, everything just slowed down. I just had to. I was like, well, I guess I need to move at the speed of my bladder, you know? So it was just like a funny little body thing like that finally kind of put me back into touch with my own natural frequency. And I just realized, and then when I had my third kid, my son, I was getting some really strong messages from the universe about like, you have to slow down. Like, red light is blinking.
Mm,
You have to slow down. I was being shown in dreams. I was being shown by my body. It was one of those things where like if I didn't listen, it was going to get bad, you know?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But there's
so it,
awareness there, which is huge. And
yeah,
I think when you say that we sometimes are so focused on when we're busy and hurried and rushed. And on top of that, we're multitasking in our brains and we're holding space for people. We aren't aware of ourselves, let alone our body, right? And
yeah.
so I love that because to be aware, if you have to, sometimes people aren't even aware that they have to pee because
They don't even know.
they're
I wasn't.
fine.
For 20 years, I wasn't.
Yes, and so that is kind of a cool thing to be able to slow down and be like, wait, do I need to go to the bathroom? What am I feeling right now? So that like
Yeah.
that's great awareness. It's a great tool to use to think about how full your bladder is, but then it has other ramifications, positive
So
as
many
well.
came. That was like the first one, but then from there, it was like all the other things kind of came back into alignment
Yeah.
as I listened, as I listened to them.
Yeah. That's that's so cool. Um one oh so something really cool. I have like a notebook for hair stuff and then I have personal journals and I I I'm going to get emotional. I knew that your class was going to be really um potent for me and personally and so I realized I took my personal journal to your class. And so I keep all my personal journals and so I dug it out before this interview and
Oh my god.
I know and I mean I am
Oh,
emotional just talking about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and so I wrote down several things. Which one was, what do you want this haircut to mean for you? Um, and then one thing that you said was share personal things only if it serves the client, not for our own catharsis.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I realized how much at the time when you said that, it was like, oh, whoa. And it's something I'm aware of all the time now, but like back when I took this class with you, it was kind of a mirror for me to see how much I was really sort of processing with my own clients. And in the years since, and having the balanced hairstylist, I get a lot of comments from non hairstylists saying, yes, this is, I get why you're doing this and mental health for hairstylists is important. But in my experience, I feel like my hairstylist is emotionally dumping on me most of the time.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think we can do that as hairstylists. I think it's easy for us um to process things with our clients, especially if we're verbal processors.
Mhm.
Um so how can we communicate as hairstylists and know in the moment with a client what is like real authentic communication and then what is oversharing?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And it's going to be different for everybody. I can speak to my kind of like things I've done along the way to try and clarify. One thing was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe I made it clear to my clients that I wanted them to ask before sharing something traumatic,
Mhm.
because it was something that kept happening where I'd be like cutting someone's hair with a razor and then like something would come, and it was honestly, it made it hard for me to like deliver the haircut in the way I wanted, because I have reactions. I get cold, I can get a little shaky. Like I wanted to be able to like stay in my center through the service.
Yeah.
And so as a, you know, in service of that, just helping me stay in my center as the one who's serving you, just ask first if there's something traumatic that you need to share. Just ask so I can be like, ooh, maybe not now. Let me finish your bangs, whatever it is. Or like, no, I don't have capacity today. Or just ask first. So it was kind of like teaching people how I wanted to be approached with that. And I have never I would say I've never been this sort of hairstylist to like emotionally dump on clients. Um and I have seen so much of that happen in salons, and I have felt like just like being next to someone when that's happening, it's always felt like, oh, like that doesn't feel like the right direction as the person who as is serving, then it feels like, I don't know. It something about that didn't feel right to me, so I've always been a bit aware. Now, there are times though when I have something to share that is relevant to what they're saying that could possibly be supportive for them to hear. So then I'm just trying to like be in my own discernment around that. But always, I think a big part of it for me is like always keeping the awareness that I am serving them.
Mm,
I am serving you. You're paying me. I'm serving you. And if I'm dumping on you emotionally, then I'm asking you to serve me.
yes.
And that's not what this is. But if a client, there have been times where I've been like, well, sometimes a client will ask, and they'll ask a lot of personal questions about me. And in that case, I'm willing to share. There might be a point where I would steer the conversation in a new direction. But if they're asking me, then I will typically share my experience when it feels appropriate. But I would wait for them to initiate that.
I love that you are asking your clients to ask for permission. I think it that sometimes clients are talking and things are just spewing out of their mouths and they're not even aware that they're sharing something traumatic. So I think that idea of saying, "Hey, you need to ask me." I would prefer if you ask me if you're going to share something heavy and traumatic that you ask for permission first because then it makes them aware and then it gives you choice. I love that we're talking about choice so much today.
It's choice.
Yeah.
It's about choice. It really is. And I don't think I've ever said no to someone who is asked if they can share something really tender or traumatic. But what I do because I think it's important that to create a space. Not everyone has the capacity for it, but in my practice, it is important to me that I can hold a space for people to bring all of themselves.
Mm.
So I do what I can to keep my capacity to where I can hold that, but I still require to be asked first because that gives me a chance to like take a breath. I put my roots down. I have like energetic things that I do to protect myself from holding what isn't mine to hold. So I might take a breath. I might be like, okay, let's just pause for a second. I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back. And then like we can get into it. I
Yeah.
do whatever I need to do to be able to receive so that it's not just kind of because I've had so many experiences where, I'm just like, oh, whoa. And then I haven't known because we're not taught. We're doing the work of a therapist, but as you know, but we're not really taught how to do it. We're not taught about confidentiality. We're not taught about any of these kind of master skills that a person who's getting their degree and, a person who's a therapist is going to do. So I've had to just figure out along the way how to take care of myself to be able to hold something when it comes. And part of that care is asking to have a choice.
And I think too that something that I've realized that I'm like a very sensitive, emotional person, and I have to process what's going on in my life outside of work. Because if I'm not doing my own work, if I'm not journaling or going to therapy or whatever it is that I need to process my own things in life, I am taking it into work.
Yeah.
And I am like spilling it over to clients.
Yep.
And that's not, like you said, that's not fair. We are of service.
Yeah.
And so when we're spilling our stuff, they are serving us. It's a vice versa situation.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
The care, we need to have this space held for us so that we can hold space for others. It's essential. There's no way to avoid that.
Absolutely. It's like if I see a therapist, I always ask them, do you have a therapist? Because I think
Yeah.
it's so important to be able
Yeah.
to, like you said, just be able to do that work outside so you're not bringing it in. And
Right.
we do have to take the time to work on ourselves so that we're not bringing it to our clients.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember telling me this, but I I told you that I wanted to create something for mental health for hairstylists, and you said to me, "In my experience, hairstylists don't want to take care of themselves." Do you still find that to be true? And what do you think is underneath this resistance?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's changed a lot.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's changed a lot. I think in the last 5 years, 10 years, but more so 5 years, I think we've been having more collective conversations around the importance of caring for ourselves. At the time that I was doing at the time that I launched the Alchemy of Change, it still felt hard to, it was like the razor shag haircut classes were like filling up with, or like how to use social media, like these classes. I could tell that the interest in the industry was in these other things. And it was hard to fill, it was hard to get people to pay to take a class to learn how to set up these other parts of their businesses. So I was really experiencing that as a person who had been for years trying to support hairstylists taking care of themselves, just self-care in general, and just kind of feeling like no one was listening to me. And I feel like it's changed, and I'm so glad. because it's essential that it does. And
Yeah.
what contributes to that? I just think I think hairstylists tend to be empathic, sensitive, creative people that maybe had a harder time in other school systems. And so already we're sort of like funneled into this like caregiving.
Yeah.
And then I think the industry itself and a lot of the kind of systemic issues within the industry are really perpetuating that we just keep overgiving and overgiving and giving and giving and giving. I think a big part of it is that it's a mostly probably female dominated industry that's run entirely and financially by men,
Yeah.
in these major corporations. And yeah, it's just like all the shit that's alive in the rest of the world and causing havoc is very alive here too.
Yeah.
And we're being asked as women and also as, all genders of people, but we're being asked to give beyond our own capacities again, emotionally.
And I think people are realizing, thankfully, like you said, that, the shag classes and the social media classes, none of that matters. None of it matters if you're burning out and if you don't
No.
have the other side of it,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah. When I said that to you, I hope it didn't discourage you.
Oh no.
Okay,
It
good.
actually kind of fueled me. It was
Okay, good,
like,
good. Okay, good.
you're absolutely right. And that's why we need it, you
That's
know?
why we need it.
Yeah.
That's why we need it.
Hmm. I do want to talk about this just a little bit because I feel like, you and I have 25 years this year of doing hair, and we've both kind of had to figure out how to do hair differently to sustain us. So I do want to ask you about how you prioritize self care because that is something important. And I think it's something important to talk about because I think 95% of my following is women. And,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, we are asked to do a lot of heavy lifting in our lives in general. And then if we are mothers on top of that. So, um, how do you prioritize self care? Um, and then I do want to talk to you about scheduling as well, like how you schedule your clients and things like that. So,
Yeah.
and if that affects your mental health,
Yeah.
creating a schedule, around your mental health.
Yes, totally. Okay, so how do I make time for self-care? Well, I always have Grandma Susie's words,
Love her.
always. And she would have wanted everyone to have those words, especially the mothers.
Hmm.
Always fill your cup first. So that I think where I'm at now is that I know what to look for when I'm not in alignment with my self-care. So I know if I start feeling resentment,
Okay.
that's the first clue. So if I'm feeling resentful of anybody or anything, then I go, okay, okay. I'm not taking care of something here that needs to be taken care of. I'm giving too much. So, and then I look at where am I giving too much? Okay. So it's like looking for the clue, being on alert
Hmm.
for the clues that I'm not. And then when I'm not, then I have to check myself and I go back to, okay, what do I know I need? Am I feeding and nourishing myself well? Not really. That's been very hard for me, honestly, especially in perimenopause. My body is changing and my needs for nourishment are totally different and I haven't figured it out. That's just real talk.
Same. Let me know when you
So
do.
yeah, so I'm struggling
Yeah,
with that,
me too.
but so things that I know that I need though, I have to get outside. I have to either walk or run or do something outside or I really will get really depressed.
Hmm.
So I know that at least 3 days a week, I need to go outside and do something for an hour. I have a lake close by that I walk around. And how do I make time for that? I just, get the kids off to school and I go. So I do it in the morning. I just make sure it happens, and that's just baseline.
Yeah.
I have so little routines like that where I'm like, okay, 3 days a week for sure. I'm going to do my walk. I wake up in the morning. First thing I do is I take my vitamins. I drink a glass of water, and I just do that. There's no question. So that's built in. Um, I have a couple of little containers I've created with friends where we do like listening turns, where we just take turns like listening to the other person for an hour. I have a couple of those things set up, and that really serves a lot of purposes for me. One of them is just sort of like, as you and I were talking about, like I need to be able to have space held for me,
Yes.
so I have a couple things like that I do, and I get massage. And how do I work it into my life? I just prioritize it. I just know that at this point, because of what I know to be true that grandma told me, I cannot serve my family or my community if my cup is not at least part way full, ideally all the way full, not always all the way full. Sometimes quite empty, but never entirely empty, at least not yet, knock on wood.
And so
You know
you're
what I mean?
yeah, for sure. You're prioritizing it sounds like constantly. And I
Constantly.
think for people that aren't doing that, like initially I had to start like scheduling it
Oh, yeah.
in my
It's
calendar.
scheduled. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So everything is in my calendar. Everything. Absolutely. All self-care, every walk, every appointment, all my listening turns. It's in my calendar 2 months ahead, and so I know,
It happens.
I it so I know it'll happen, and I even
Yes.
schedule time to not schedule anything. I know people don't like to hear that, but it is at this point with 3 kids at home and, a couple different jobs, it's like that's how we do it, and because of it, I get free time where I don't have to do anything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So definitely using the calendar.
That is one thing too that I didn't even put in my notes, but that I walked away with from the Alchemy of Change is you recommended 1 day a month to have a creative day where you're not doing hair. And
Yeah.
that has been a game changer for me as far as my creativity goes.
Yep.
And it's like sometimes my daughter's into the diamond art right now or whatever.
Oh, mine too.
Really?
She just showed me last night her first little one. I was like, "Oh, so
Oh,
cute." I
it's
didn't know
so
that was
cute.
it's so
My
cute.
little, like, Virgo perfectionist daughter, like,
Oh,
loves the, like, tiny
perfect.
detailed things.
Yeah.
And so, like, whatever it is, it's something that it's not doing hair. And I think something that I walked away with too from this class was, being so aware of my schedule, I think
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So when you schedule your clients, is it, like, really, specific? Do you make sure you have breaks in between? Do you make sure you have a lunch in the day? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, so when I came back into the salon after COVID, um, I started back 1 day a week, and I was thinking I'd do 1 day a week for a couple months, and I'd go to 2, and then I'd make my way up to 4 probably, but, um, I started off at 1 day a week, an hour and a half for every haircut. I do a half-hour trim, and I have every 2 hours, I have a 15-minute break. I've got a lunch in the middle, so I work one long day with a couple breaks in the middle there and also an hour-long lunch. And I just, I clients book online, they can book within these time slots. It's worked out really well. I almost never run late, which I love. It feels spacious to have an hour and a half with each person
Mhm.
and then having a little break in between. I've noticed as I've gotten older in my career, in my work, but also in the rest of life, that I need a little space in between everything. I don't like those quick turnarounds, like going from work to straight home or, client to client. I don't like it when one's coming in and one's going out. Like that just puts me totally off balance,
Mhm.
and I have a hard time even recovering. So I like to make sure that there's spacious time for one person to leave, and then I get to sit for a couple minutes, and then the next person arrives.
Yes.
And that flow really helps me stay kind of grounded. Nervous system is like settled and right. And that's my day. So it feels spacious, but it's enough. And then I work, that's Mondays. And then Tuesdays, I work a half of that. So I'm working, so I've made my way in 5 years from one day to one and a half. And I thought I'd be back at probably 4 by now, but I don't think I ever will work more than 1.5 days. And I've just had to figure out other ways because I love my job. I just love it and I want to love it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, my mentor getting into doing hair was in her early 40s and she was to the point where she would not be able to use her hands anymore.
Mm,
And she had been cutting hair for 25 years, 30 years. You know, customers always right, always going fast. And she really drilled into me, if you don't take care of your hands, they will quit on you.
mhm.
And I know that I'm going to be using these things until the end in all ways. And there's no way that I'm going to forsake them.
Yeah.
So that's been a part of it is just like I work now to what my hands can do without pain at night. Cause I was starting to feel a lot of symptoms of carpal tunnel and, like, but I don't have that now.
Yeah. It's important. It's
Yeah.
important taking care of our bodies.
Yeah.
Back to the space between things. I've noticed that has been a game changer for me too. I try to allow 15 minutes between each appointment. It doesn't always happen, but I've lengthened my appointments now so that I'm not rushing during the appointment. And then I
Hmm.
try to give myself space. But if I don't, what I feel like is our nervous systems are like, sort of ramping up with each client. And if we don't take that space between clients to really sort of, like you said, settle, kind of come back to ourselves, then we're just ramped up. And like you said, by the end of the day, we're in the bathtub for 2 hours and
Yeah.
crying because it's just,
Yeah.
it's too much. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's important. I had a stylist who took a course with me and she said, after talking about space between clients, I realized I can hold space for like 8 people in a day. That's doable, but it's not doable to do it 8 times in a row. So like doing it once and then taking a break and then doing
Yeah,
it again and then taking a break. I think it's really important for our nervous systems.
absolutely.
How are you taking care of yourself right now in the times that we're living in as we're recording this? Yeah. Um, I think it's important to sort of have a conversation around how we're handling this so that our communities can see and feel this because as space holders, it can feel like a lot when a lot is happening in our world
Yeah.
and we're having a hard time processing it and then being with people
Mhm.
say,
Let's see, the ways that I am taking care of myself, I'm trying to stay nourished. And I feel like when there's worldly things that are happening around me that feel really heavy, that's the first thing that gets to be hard for me is to feed myself. So trying to do that first and foremost. It feels like self-care for me to inform myself to be prepared
"Mm,
in the ways that then I feel, yeah, I think just preparedness is helping me feel self-care. So I have some friends right now and family members in Minneapolis. I've been really keeping up with them and just kind of like watching to see what they're doing right now on the front lines and on the ground with ice and just trying to kind of aim myself in a direction to be able to kind of mobilize in community to stand up as protector if and when that comes to Seattle in a bigger way. Um, to me, it feels like a huge self-care right now feels like um, tending to my relationships,
mm,
friends, family, community, neighbors,
mhm."
and just kind of like strengthening those relationships, knowing that we're going to be having to pull together more.
Yeah.
That feels like a really big sense of self care. So I held a community meeting at our house not long ago for neighbors, just for like general emergency preparedness. And, it was like a potluck and we just like got to know each other and we got to like talk through some things and just kind of like connecting a little bit
Mhm.
and starting to form more of those relationships. Sharing resources in the salon
I love.
feels really good. So
Yeah.
like having the resources up on my mirror so people can ask and then having them in the back room to share, pointing people in directions towards preparedness themselves feels like self-care. Um, I mean, yeah, taking baths.
Hmm.
I think a lot of what I'm feeling is self-care right now is actually kind of more community care, but that feels like self-care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like tending to my relationships and bonds, getting prepared. Um, there's more. I mean, just kind of like trying to be sensitive to different people's experiences right now, especially clients coming into the salon who are doing work on the front lines, putting their bodies on the line, like people doing that kind of work, just learning about how to support, how to create a space for them to come and feel some respite and to get some care before they go back out.
Mhm.
Um, so I think I feel better in myself when I'm tending to those things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Those, because it's like no amount of self-care at this point that I can do can even touch it. I went to a community grief ritual about a week ago. That definitely felt like self-care because it was like community holding space for each other to just grieve.
Yes.
So those kinds of things I'm looking for. And then the work that I've been doing teaching the wheel of consent to me feels like an enormous self-care because it's about supporting people to find their authentic embodied yeses and nos and to feel their sense of agency and to also build trust with themselves and each other. And that feels to me like I come out of that feeling like, okay, I have cared for myself by tending to community. And those two things aren't separate.
Yeah. How is it that for you personally, when you're behind the chair and we're talking, because so many of us are empaths, we are experiencing our own anger and grief and figuring out what actions and volunteering and things that we're going to take. But then we're hearing that all day with clients, which I loved. I loved your post about having resources available because I think it's um, when clients are bringing this up and when people feel helpless, if you have something already there, it's less emotional labor for you in that moment. And you've already
Yeah.
done the work, and you can say, Here, actually, I printed this out for you. Here are things that you can do. Here's a place where you can volunteer. This is a place to give your money if you feel so inclined. So I love that you have brought that up and posted about this because I felt like immediately when you showed that, I was like, "Oh, yes, I love this idea." So when you're with clients and we're dealing with our own anger and things, how do you process it when you're with other people that are also, expressing their anger or sadness or grief? How does that impact you? And do you like? I think sometimes we can let it sort of build up in our systems to some degree.
Yeah.
How do you not let that happen?
How do I not let myself get pulled into an activation
Yes.
with clients who are feeling really activated?
Yeah, I think.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
or something
let
like
it
that.
build up in you after having that same conversation, not same, but similar conversation all day. How do you not let that, like, build up in you?
Well, I would say to some degree it does build up in me.
Yeah.
And so then at the end of the day, I'm left with a bit of work to do on my own to like dispel it. But I think that there's part of the touch that happens that can be really centering for both people. And so I think I try and use like really grounding touch on purpose when things get ramped up or I can tell someone's really activated, that both settles me and then I think settles them, because I think we do like we co-regulate, my feelings about regulate. I don't love that word, but we
Yeah.
do, we co-resonate with each other. And so if one of us can bring ourselves down, then both people also, like, sometimes if people just need to rage and I can hold space for that too.
Yeah.
If somebody needs to come in and just like let it rip and like have a big yell and like need a big bear hug, I can do that. And I think there's something about the touch between people that helps me come back into a grounded place, come
Mhm.
back into a grounded place. So I guess what I am saying is that I have maybe some kind of really well honed in skills of centering myself after just years and years and years of work.
Mhm.
How do I ground myself in this moment when both of us aren't grounded so that they can kind of plug into where I am for a minute and get some of that? It's mothering. That's what it is, right? We learn that as moms. I think that's it. I just become a mom. I become the mother. That's it.
That's so beautiful. And also, like, ugh, that's hard. It's hard in that
It's
moment to do that, but that's really a beautiful way to put that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and I didn't that's not the experience I had of a mom, but I can imagine that's an experience that would have been I would have loved. Maybe my mom gave me a little I don't wanna get too much into my mom, but I conjure that kind of universal mother energy, maybe that's it, of like, I'm here to hold this.
I see you.
I can hold
Yeah.
this with you.
I
I
see
see
you and
you.
we can do this, but
You're not
you're
alone.
not alone, but it's not gonna rattle you.
No, and I'm not gonna hold it for you.
Mm.
I'll hold you while you hold it.
Ugh.
I'll be there with you through it. I'll be your witness. I mean, so I told you I do this listening turns with my friend where we just take turns. We take 2 hours, we each have an hour, and one of us gets to be in the role of speaker, but we can be silent the whole time. The other one just witnesses. And that practice has been incredible for me in honing this particular skill set of just being with. I'm just with you.
Mm.
It's like a presence.
Not having to interject or change or
I
fix
don't have
or
to
even
fix it.
I see you. It's like you are seeing them just by being. That's
I'm just by being. And then, there's the touch there too. Like I'm touching your head, I'm brushing your hair. You feel that. I think there's something deep in us about just tending to each other's, you know, grooming. My mom worked with chimps in Tanzania and she studied their grooming habits. And like grooming is an ancient community practice. We've been doing it since we were chimpanzees. We've been calming down by grooming each other. We've been reconnecting, regrounding, refamilying. We just sit and we pick knits or we comb or we brush or we braid.
I
So there's something really ancient there.
I have to say that when I see you grooming yourself, like you often will do hair brushing videos of yourself, I immediately feel my entire system just go, oh,
Yeah.
and I'm just watching you. And it's made me more
Yeah.
aware, like, of when I brush my daughter's hair or when I cut, you know, anyone really, but my kids especially, like I get very slow and I get very intentional and I
Yeah.
get very quiet. And it's again, something that I've learned from you that it's like, slow down, enjoy that moment. But yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that about grooming for sure. I've shared my experience about the alchemy of change and how much it transformed not only the way I see myself, but also how I work. How can other hairstylists find this course with you? And then I know actually that you just started offering alchemy of change one-on-ones, which I think could be really potent, especially for those hairstylists who are just like on that edge of burnout and they love what they do, but they just can't imagine going to work one more day. I
Mhm.
think it could be really important for that. So whether it's the class or the one-on-one, tell us how hairstylists can find you to work with you.
Okay. So I still have the alchemy of change. So once the pandemic started, I kind of shifted the alchemy of change into being a self-paced class that someone can do on their own. There's some videos and just kind of like a workbook module that you just sort of do in your own time. So that's available for anybody anytime, and it just takes you through. There's a couple chapters. One is about kind of like the art of working with ritual and initiation in hair care. There's one that's just about like how to do the consult, and that part's super important and super, I think, super fun and interesting. Like how to really get on someone's level with them and get a juicy consult so you know exactly what's happening. And then we learn about like how to kind of set the space in a way that works well for you, energetic clearing, energetic boundaries, and then self value, like how to value your services and raise your rates to kind of match the sort of life that you want. Those are the things that are available in the self paced class. And then I am now doing just one on one kind of mentoring. I just feel like I'm at a place in my career and at my age where I have a lot to share and I have a lot of experience and I love what I do and I've done it in so many different ways. And so I would like to be able to support other people who are needing to kind of make shifts in their careers as hairstylists. So people can get a hold of me through my website, roxiejanehunt.com and book like, continuous sessions or just one even just to kind of get them going in the right direction. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but we had a one-on-one kind of when I first started. It was off after the alchemy of change. I feel like it was
Yeah.
pandemic times,
Yeah.
and we met over Zoom, and I was, sort of figuring out because I'd been doing like mental health, but I didn't have a name or anything. And so then
Yeah.
you helped me walk through figuring out what the balanced hairstylist was going to be and what it looked like and what it felt like. And I just remember you asking me these questions. So I'm sharing this because for anyone out there that's listening, you have a magical way of being able to see someone for where they're at and then asking the right questions to be able to get them to where they want to be. And it wasn't just, the balanced hairstylist, it was a lot of things. It was how I was working behind the chair, how I was scheduling my time. There's all these different things that you have wisdom to share, especially with people that are on that burnout edge, but then also younger stylists, I think
Yeah.
would really benefit from something like this.
Yeah.
To say, because I think a lot of people are struggling right now being behind the chair with times the way they are. So
Yeah.
it could be really like, I just felt really seen. I felt really clear about where I was going next and validated in where I was going and what I was like, this passion that I had. And then I just felt really nourished too. Like I just
Good.
remember feeling really nourished after my one-on-one with you. It was really, really uh, poignant for that time in my life.
Good. I'm so glad.
Okay, so find you on roxyjanehunt.com. If you could offer final question. That feels like a game show. Final
Love it.
question.
Ooh, I love it.
Uh, if you could offer hairstylists one permission slip about their worth, their energy, or the magic that we do, what would it be?
Oh my God. Oh, it's such a good question. One permission slip. This might be a twofold. The first thing is I want to give people permission to value their presence and attention above all else.
Oh, so good.
So obviously having the craft of hairstyling is amazing. Keep working on that, but keep honing your your ability to be present and attentive and know that there's so much inherent value in that. It's almost the most valuable thing that we have to give, I think,
Mm.
is our present attention. And that sort of destroys the myth that you have to be doing more to be worth more. I don't think that's it. I think it's your ability to be present is worth so much. And then the other part of it is that, and this is for hairstyling and career, but it's also actually for the rest of life. It doesn't have to look like anything you've ever seen before. Your way of doing this work, your way of having a career that feels meaningful, your way of giving to your community and receiving in the form of money to pay for what you need to. We're living in really weird times, and I think that's all the more reason to really go for creating something that works for you, even if you're like trading all your services and getting all your needs met through trade, or cutting hair out of the back of your car. Well, whatever it is. I think this are kind of like, there's something to be said for professionalism, right? But there's also room for other things. So I think just know that like the trade and skill of being a hairstylist is valuable always and will always be no matter where you go. And so don't be afraid to lean into making it work in whatever way that you need to make it work.
And I think in the world of AI right now too, like our jobs will never go away.
No, they will never.
I think too, like knowing your value of your presence and making things work for you is knowing ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
so much of that is knowing what we need and what success looks like to us.
Yeah. And
I
it's
feel like you said it so
perfectly
it's the way I'm sorry. The way you said it was so beautiful. Like it doesn't have to look like anyone else's.
it doesn't, and it's perfectly reasonable, valued, and invited to to value your services and your time based on what you need to be able to do them in full capacity instead of the other way around. In fact, I think that's the way to do it.
I love that. Say
So,
that again.
yeah. So you are invited and you have full permission to value your time and your services around your desire for how you want your life and balance of work-life balance to be, instead of looking around you at what other people are charging or feeling like you can't charge more than this or this. Just look at what you the life you have, the amount of time that you have to give, and value your time based on that, and then build your life around supporting that. Maybe that was too many words, but does
No.
that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think what you said too was that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's that capacity piece that we work up to our capacity instead of thinking about charging so that we can be within our capacity.
Right.
Very different things.
Very different things. And I wrote a book called Unstuck, and there's a chapter in the middle, and it's an interview with Jane Matthews. And she's a person who's really helped me understand that. And so if you want to know more, I would get the book and read that center chapter. It's also in the alchemy of change, in this kind of new way of valuing yourself and kind of creating the life you want and the value to hold it in the amount of time that you want to work. But but to work that way requires that you really hone in on what your specific and unique gifts are. So that's part of that work, is like you hone in the value to fit what you want, and you also pull from within, like, where am I best served in this? Like, what am I specifically really good at here? And really bring that. So if you're not good at doing blow dries, stop wasting your time
Yeah. And everyone else's.
and everyone else's and do what you do best really good and don't do the things that don't matter to you.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yep. Um, Roxie Jane Hunt, this has been amazing.
It really has. It has nourished me so much to get to think about and speak to and just kind of dive in here with you. It just really feels good. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Mhm.
I feel really honored to, I over the years it's not just been alchemy of change, it's been following you on Instagram and having one-on-ones and emails and occasionally like I feel like we have this like far away friendship that we get to check in and
Yeah.
like it's just you have been truly a person who I feel like has been a mentor and um has like nourished my soul on a deep level.
Oh,
And so um thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
you're so welcome, Sarah.
This was
I'm so
really
glad you asked.
yeah, thank you. And I'll have all the things on the show notes, but where people can find you. So if anyone is out there, please find Roxy. She can I just want your magic to be everywhere. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for what you're doing too.
Um,
It's really beautiful and it's so needed and it's been really wonderful for me to have like a soul sister in this work to feel like I'm not alone and you're not alone and we're doing this thing and it matters.
yeah. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay.
Whew. So good, right? Roxy, thank you so much again for being here with us and spending this time with us, sharing your wisdom and just your energy with us. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to just take a moment right now and reflect on what felt the most supportive. Maybe close your eyes if you're in a place to do that and bring awareness with you behind the chair this week of what felt nourishing and supportive in this conversation. The work we do, it's meaningful, it's connective, it's powerful. And also, it asks a lot of us. So, as you move throughout your week, I want you to remember that not only do you have choice, but also that you get to take care of yourself in the best way that you see fit. If you loved this episode, please be sure to share it with another hairstylist or beauty professional who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss one of these potent conversations. To find Roxy, all of her work, her books, all of the things that can support you, please visit her website at roxiejanehunt.com. And her first name is Roxie, and then Jane, Jane, and Hunt, Hunt, roxiejanehunt.com. If you are looking for me, please join the free community for support and nourishing conversation at thebalancedhairstylist.com. Before we wrap up, a friendly reminder, I am not a licensed therapist. I am a fellow hairstylist sharing tools and tips and stories and encouragement to help us all feel a little bit more balanced behind the chair and in our beauty spaces. Think of this podcast as an inspiration and not a replacement for professional care. If you're struggling, please reach out to a mental health professional. All right, y'all, please take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.